In the world of Len, a great war between the continents of Ebros and Alkish is forcibly brought to an end by the Tempest, a cataclysmic storm that rages over the surrounding oceans. An uneasy peace has been forged, with relations growing colder each passing decade. A party of adventurers, calling themselves the Hydra, are the only ones to notice the cracks in the ice. A race against time before the world is plunged into the freezing depths of total war. A chain is only as strong as its weakest link, in a debt to a friend. A homebrew campaign.
I feel a responsibility to talk not about Sessions 25's recap of A Debt to a Friend right away, but rather a responsibility to talk about Wizards of the Coast's Open Gaming License version 1.1, which has recently been leaked and reported by Gizmodo, and is being reviewed by various YouTubers and lawyers on the web. Now, I'm not a lawyer, I'm simply just another voice that wants to show their discontent at version 1.1 of the OGL, and talk about why I think the first one is important, not just to me, and not just to D&D, but also as well to the world of Alan. I am very worried that content creators are going to disappear, pulling their works that have been incorporated into the world of Alan in some fashion, and have enhanced the experience. So what is the OGL? What is this language I'm using? So Wizards of the Coast are the creators of D&D, and in third edition, well no, TSR, and Wizards of the Coast are now the current owners, owned by Hasbro. Anyway, the OGL is the Open Gaming License. This was introduced, I believe, in 3rd edition of Dungeons & Dragons, and essentially allows people to take the basic free rules of the game, sans a couple of copyrights. You can't call illithids like Mind Flayers, you can't call Beholders, you've got to call them a different name, that sort of thing, but otherwise you can use the rules and you can make your own system. And those systems include games like Pathfinder, often called D&D 3.75 edition, because it's more of 3rd edition and much more enhanced, and the same with 2nd edition Pathfinder as well. You can make entirely new systems, such as Blue Rose, the romantic fantasy role-playing game. I love the idea of the system a lot. I would love to play this. But unfortunately I'm not a good enough role player to do so. But you also get, as well, Warcraft, the role-playing game. You can have people like, what was it? You can have, like, White Wolf Publishing. Basically, you can have, like, your competitors publish work for D&D. Like, you've got the sword and sorcery line here. And, like, they just published Warcraft for D&D. Yeah? You could get video games like Star Wars, Knights of the Old Republic, yeah? Now published by Disney, and whose lawyers are not going to get involved. I know a lot of people saying that, oh, you know, Disney's are going to get involved, they're going to sue because of this kerfuffle. They're not. They'll just have an exclusive deal, or they'll pull Knights of the Old Republic. So what's going on? So the reason why this is affected, it essentially allows people to make homebrew and publish it online without being sued or any sort of problems like that, as long as you're sticking to the rules and you're not taking certain intellectual property from Wizards of the Coast. As long as you're basically using the engine to make the game, great. So you can have games like Pathfinder, you can have Exalted, you can have Dungeons of Drakkenheim and Grimhollow, all those sort of things. You see a lot of Kickstarter projects for D&D. That's because of the OGL originally in 3rd edition. There was a 4th edition one, I forget what the name is, and then there was the SRD for 5th edition, the Systems Reference Document. Now, the reason why there's a bit of a kerfuffle about this is because it's essentially saying that Wizard owns all of that content. So, like when you make homebrew on D&D Beyond, Wizards of the Coast owns that. When you use their D&D Beyond app or website to create stuff, it's theirs, and they can do with it whatever they wish, and you are not entitled to any compensation. However, this is now extended to essentially all online homebrew. If you've made an adventure and you've published it online, that now belongs to Wizards of the Coast. And furthermore, this applies to all old homebrew, from the OGL back many moons ago to today, essentially, or whenever the version 1.1 is coming about. Furthermore, if your earnings are, or rather, if your earnings, not your profits, if your earnings exceed $750,000 on your product, let's say, I don't know, let's say I was making my own homebrew, Nova Spec, and I made $750,000 from it, not profit. That maybe it cost me, I don't know, $749,000 to make it. Wizards of the Coast can then take 25% of that money earned from that. Not profit. That's not after profit. That's earnings. It could cost you that much to make the game, and they'd still take 25%. And they can do that for all content retroactively, if they so choose. So, if, for example, there wasn't a licensing agreement with a separate licensing agreement with LucasArts or whoever, Lucas Games, Disney, who made Knights of the Old Republic, they could actually go back to those people and say, we want our 25%, even though at the time it was fine. So a lot of people like Kobold Press and Critical Role might well be, and Paizo, the makers of Pathfinder, Exalted, Starfinder, etc., they're looking at making their own systems, completely separate to D&D. And this is causing a mass exodus. So, essentially, a lot of the content that may be here might not actually be here in a future edition of the World of Alan. We shall see. However, our DM does mostly get free stuff shared on the internet. It is not really taken without permission, or incorporated without permission. The DM has paid for it and incorporated it into his game, or he has, requested things on Reddit. And as well, I must say formally that if anyone does have any problems with assets being used in the game, please reach out to me. I'll reach out to the DM. We can sort things out that way. So it is important to homebrew. It is important to third-party publishing, or 3PP as they're called on, shortened down to our forums. It's a big deal, and it's going to be a much, much bigger deal as time goes on. So that's if it goes forward. There are open letters, there's petitions, a lot of YouTubers are talking about it. Forums everywhere are ablaze. Very few people are actually in support of this. I think the most opposition to the righteous indignation that is indeed well deserved is essentially people just wanting more information and proof and more context. And I fall on that side, that I feel like my journalistic ethics, my former journalist, as my sense of former journalist, is telling me like, I need more information on this. I need to know for certain how far this bill, or rather this license, is before I start to get up in arms. I don't like the draft that we've seen so far as it's been presented, and I don't like the implications it has, not just on D&D, not just on the Will of the Lamb, but role-playing games in their entirety, and just how one company can just request tons of money and ownership from a time when that was not even on people's that people thought of. We will see. If this goes to a court of law, and there's a lot of people who are lawyering up, this is going to be a very big moment. This could possibly be the biggest thing in tabletop role-playing game history. We're going to see how this goes. Again, I really apologise for what has essentially been a mostly uneducated take. It is serious. We should be worried about it. And we should be looking at, like, if there's any content you want, get it now. If there's any creators you want to support them now. Because this may even affect virtual tabletops as well. Roll20 is trying to carve out a deal. Foundry isn't even being considered for a deal with Wizards of the Coast, because this is now affecting their ability to host content online as well, from selling books to actually even allowing people to play the game. So we will see. We will see. I'm going to end that there. It is important, but I'm not going to get up in arms about it yet. We're going to see how this goes. However, I am pleased to see there's been a lot of backlash. I just worry that the flame that burns twice as bright burns twice as fast, as happens with video games. Boycotts in video games very rarely, if ever, work. We'll see if the same applies to tabletop role-playing games. Anyway, that's my rant. Let's get on with the game, shall we? In its quest to destroy the dagger, the Hydra has burnt up all daylight, and now camps amongst the stars, per Cornelius' suggestions. Using starlight, Cornelius writes a letter to his sweetheart Maya about the trials he went through, and looks forward to the day he will see her. There is a pang of melancholy, however, as he's taken further and further away from her, but there's the strength within him as his conviction towards Malil appears to grow. Absence makes the heart grow fonder, and faith makes it go stronger. Ragnar is weirded out that the meat man, Malil taking the guise of Omar, made it all the way up here. And Takavria's faith is in the Raven Queen is ever bolstered, knowing that another god walks among their mortal servants. Perhaps she too will speak to him at some stage again. And me, I'm just admiring the blade, the scimitar that now fits more beautifully in my hand. Enchanted by the Exarch of Song's enchantments. We decide that we're going to move down the mountains and we managed to reach Thunder Helm within a day. The smell of freshly baked bread comes and goes from Freegate as we begin to smell ocean. The roiling ocean sits to the west, and to our west rather, we'll just say our left. To the east, and calm streams wait below. As we travel, I recall some lore about Thunder Helm. That I admire the industry of Thunder Helm, the dominant, hard-working dwarven demographic. It's the main, or perhaps even only, source of black powder in all of the kingdom of H.Y.D.R.A. And as well as the recently discovered chandelier. When used by proper magical rituals, it can be used to defy gravity, thus making airships now a possibility. We look for the dwarven tunnels to the Watchkeep per Ragnar's suggestion, but with a 10 of perception, we find nothing in the wilds. For that, we'll have to travel to Thunder Helm, the beating heart of Ostergaard's industry. On the road, most of us don't notice anything, but Cornelius, rolling 24, having felt a newfound appreciation for the world, having met his god in person, he sees how the rivers flow and how the foliage blooms, with various peoples and their caravans going past. Folks come taking things from the mountains to be sold, to be made, and now everything begins to make sense. Musical notes enter his mind, which are comforting. This is the grand orchestra. This is the Celestial Symphony. We bed down for the night, and Turkey finds some medium-sized game, a few turkeys and wild boar, which he brings down without any effort. He cleans up and packages what we don't eat, and says to Cornelius, "This might not be the whitetail you wanted, but it is good all the same." Nero takes a few morsels for himself. "Ah, yes, this is capital. I could get used to this," as he preens himself. Ragnar strips down the remainder of the game for bone and skin, as Cornelius takes some of the hide of the boar to add to his tent to warm it down. I've put that, and not said that he wears the skin of the boar, because that's slightly less disturbing. As we approach Thunder Helm, the streams are filled with boats gently sailing by, but beyond that we see few other people on our morning ride. The sky darkens with smog, and we feel even, a heartbeat throughout the air. It's an inorganic heartbeat. The sound of 1,000 upon 1,000 hammers upon 1,000 upon 1,000 anvils. It's the sound of industries of an ancient empire which almost took over the entirety of the world. It's the sound of Ostergaard. It's the home of the dwarves. It's the pulse of the intelligentsia. We arrive at Thunder Helm. The Hall of the Elders within the Thunder Keep, which was only seconds ago previously called the Thunder Bastion, before I misnamed it the Thunder Keep and the DM said, you know what, it's now the Thunder Keep, is the home of the governance of Thunder Helm. The Granite District sits at the top, the inner city is in the centre, the outer sprawl has the farmers, the fishermen, the lumber mills, and despite the lower economic status of such people, they held their heads high in unison and in pride. Along the walls are cannon with guards scanning for threats not yet known. And so we decide what we're looking for. I want to find the markets, storefronts for other businesses, the discount crossbow being a general store I'm looking for. Down a narrow path of paved stone which is misshapen and cut at very harsh angles that slot together, I walk in and find that it's very well kept and tidy. Floating in the air are some eyes which I stare at, and we try a staring contest, which unfortunately I lose, and so I blink, and the eyes do as well. And from the form of the eyes appears a dwarf, and I ask, "Is everything all right? Like, what happened there?" And they simply say, "Got to keep myself entertained, haven't I?" Fair enough. And so we talk about places to see and shops to visit, as well as buy a couple of things there. So we're told that the Friar in the Wind is a rather cramped place, but the Blind Hag is a large, clean pub with a fire pit in the centre, famous for cooking food over it. It's also great for travellers who are looking for gossip, which is kind of what we need. We need to know about these tunnels for the Dwarven expeditions, perhaps going to Watchkeep Lambridge, and indeed if there's any temples of air or other strange people going around looking for such things. I ask of alchemist shops. The Liquid Lab is run by Nathan Howell, a pretty eccentric character, but is perfectly reliable. I think I've had enough eccentricity for 1 week. And the Lotion and the, I believe that's Umbelique, I believe it was, or the Lotion and the Angelic, which sells ointments and salves run by a rather diminutive druid named Bree Shadowquick. Neither of which I end up going to, because I kept taking the spotlight and wanted to give other people a chance to actually do something. And there is some good RP in this session. We continue on our travels around the streets of Thunder Helm. And as we do, H.Y.D.R.A rolls Charisma, only landing a 10, I'm afraid, to see if the Hammer of Vulca is interested in the sheer amount of forging that's getting done. The hammer does not speak, but it appreciates that this is a good place to get something forged. Ragnar rolls 11 as we leave. Insight as we leave. Nobody's giving us outwardly weird looks, yet nobody's pestering us or staring us down as we travel about town. People seem to be too busy with their lives to care about us. Cornelius wants to speak to the townfolk, mostly consisting of dwarves, and the dwarves in the military of Ostergarth mostly reside in the south, and act as shock troops when used in the military. Lots of rock and stone memes. I've got to resist the urge to put a rock and stone in meme. I've got to stop going rock and stone. If you don't rock and stone, you're not coming home. Sorry, rock and stone. I do apologise. I really can't help it. I needed to get that out of my system. I haven't played Deep Rock Galactic in about 2 weeks. So yeah, we're rich. Moving on. We enter the Blind Hag, and Cornelius looks around for workers or travellers. There's not many people about that have dirt underneath their fingernails. There's lots of outsiders, travellers and merchants, quite a few humans, elves, halflings and gnomes too. There's vast fire pits around with dwarves stoking them. It's slightly more upmarket, but still within the outer sprawl. The stone bars with metal inlays is relatively busy, with a set of dwarvish bartenders behind it, the chairs being metal seats bolted into the ground. And so the party is asked what drinks they can get. I think Cornelius is asking for an ale, and there's a number of stouts on rotation, but they can cook up an ale for a bit more. I have a water, because I'm on duty. Cornelius has an ale, and Ragnar tries a stout. And I think H.Y.D.R.A declines. I think he is he's fine enough. If he did get something, I do apologise for misremembering. And Cornelius suggests an arm wrestling competition, perhaps to loosen up and make a bit of change. Before H.Y.D.R.A can leave to look at the blacksmith shops, which he wanted to do, Cornelius calls out, "Who wants to see an arm wrestling match with the two strongest people in Thunder Helm?" Now, with a 26 charisma, not a lot of people offer, but they do pay attention. And with a natural 20+1 strength roll, Cornelius manages to pull a table, despite it being bolted to the ground, and drag it over the grinding slate floor. And the screws pop out from the ground as he does so. And the barkeep's like, "Oh, come on, do you have to do that, really?" And so the two decide to go to the table and say, "You know what, it's for a laugh, and we might get some information out of it." And so Cornelius gives the speech of Tak. Forgive me, I haven't got all of the information down. "Tak is the indomitable bastion of defense, and Ragnar, the wild man, born and raised in the woods of Vostogarth, growing up as a feral child in the wilds." Tak lights his pipe, shrugs his shoulders, and sits. And he smirks, absently-mindedly blowing smoke rings on his pipe. And Ragnar smirks. God, and I love that he remembered this. "You remember the festival at the beginning of this journey, with the carnival games? You won there, but let's see if you can win 2 out of 3. And so the boys roll strength. I'm not going to go through the entirety of it, but essentially it is back and forth by the barest of victories on both sides, where they're just trying to claw back. Like literally, like the microbes on their knuckles are touching the table, yeah, they go about it incredibly well, and the narration of it was phenomenal. Too bad I'm skipping all over that, as unfortunately Ragnar invokes rage to get the final win and just smacks H.Y.D.R.A's arm against the table as the edge bends with a slam. Now, H.Y.D.R.A does get to roll a D100 and finds that 99 gold lands on the table, with merchants gathered all around. About 50 gold pieces glide towards the bar as the bartender uses some sort of telekinesis spell to say, "That covers the cost of the damage. Nay, no more than that, or I'll kick you out." Ragnar and Nero smack hands and wings, and poor Nero can't fly for 6 hours. Cornelius hands out the winnings. He asks if he's asking if anyone travels to the Barrier Mountains, and few people are able to actually give him the information that he's there for. One, however, does pipe up, and one of the merchants mentions that they're here because the dwarven steel fetches a pretty penny in grease mold, which is also confirmed by Richard Devons, I believe is what the name was, who was actually going to G.E.E.S.E to try and make his fortune selling farming supplies. So that's quite interesting. So I wonder if he bought from G.E.E.S.E. We may see him again. Who knows? We're told that they don't know of any ruins, but we should speak to the Reclamation Guild at the council chambers in the Hall of the Elders. And this man is by the name of Rimple Tarkleby. He introduced himself as. He's a young gnome who wears a hat with a bauble, or a bobble, and an insight check of 5 from Cornelius tells him that this man is sincere and polite. Ragnar listens into conversations about airships with a natural 20+1 perception. There's talk of airships and the air forces, with the dwarves going, "I think that might makes right. We should construct more Titan-class gunships." No, Titans form the specialized part of siege breaking, but we should look at more Zephyr ships so we can support logistics. And they go back and forth. How about the Roshan class with broadside guns and medium forward-facing guns? Aye, but one Titan can... And so it goes on. And Reckon asked me for what all this means, and while I'm not entirely sure, because my level of expertise was not necessarily with the Navy or the Air Force, rather. That's right, I'm thinking of like space navies. I wasn't taught much about joint forces and combined arms. I mostly know about the transportation or uses of airships and civilian uses of airships rather than the military. However, I do know that strapping guns onto things appears to be quite functional for the time being, but new doctrines are slowly but surely being brought to the fore. I approached the dwarves and just asked them about their talk of airships, hoping to try and gauge about any sort of thefts about the chandelier from the sewers. And unfortunately, they're not actually airmen, they are just enthusiasts. And they seem to know this stuff, but I would want to only speak to officials about this. I wouldn't want to alarm anyone or, God forbid, just tell everyone, like Johnny Forum goer that, oh yeah, by the way, did you know that, our main source of fuel is just being nicked from under our noses? And rather chillingly, Tax suggests alleged thieves. They could be purchasing it. Or worse than that, which is the same thing, but not to the Commissar, we could be selling it to them. That's not good. We exit the Blind Hag and we take a moment to gaze at the vastness of the... Is vastness a word? The vast site of the city. It was grown from the ground up from Unity, built practically and defensively. Behind the Hall of Ancients is a place known only as the Undercity. The whole place has a metallic tang, practically something you can taste while outdoors. The extraction pipes in the inn remove remove most of this smell and taste, however. Props to the DM for really getting to the descriptions of the town as well. The way things sound and smell and taste is a huge part of role playing for me. I love that. Smell is my favorite sense, and yeah, it's like seeing all this, knowing all this stuff in D&D is so good. Which we might have to say goodbye to with the OGLV 1.1. Moving on. As we travel, we see lots of general construction, mining equipment, and toolings around. There's advertisements for weapons and weapon systems within the inner city. The gates are indeed open to the inner city, and we see adventurers and other interesting sorts within. A group of humans take interest in their new great axe, and Cornelius suddenly feels watched. Lots of dwarven soldiery who watch the comings and goings of people, with full battalions on the walls, are dressed in full plate as they're heavily armoured, and they wear full plate with face masks with dwarven visages on, which can be lifted for better visibility. There's chainmail underneath to aid neck movement and general mobility. With 24 perception, Cornelius could see the backpacks churning and puffing with steam, gears whirring on a powered exoskeleton, their arms and legs connected to the backpack as they move in sync. There's clan iconography on the armour, and some of them have eyepieces and brass headsets. Some even have firearms, some heavier than others with shells connecting to their backpacks, although other dwarves have purely ceremonial weapons equipped as well. The watchful eye of the city guard are on us, with red crests approaching to stop and scan us. The rune that we stand upon in the archway doesn't go off, but one of the red crests stops Cornelius, as he may have... what's it called? Bad goods on him. And one of them says, "Excuse me, sir, may we just have a word?" "Oh, gods, it's my health! You found something wrong with my health, haven't you?" And he said, No, sir, nothing of the sort. "What medical school did you go to?" "Ah!" "And if you want to hire me, The guard frequently tries to interrupt, telling him it's not a medical emergency. And he's saying that, look, I'd rather just speak to you privately. Oh, you want to speak to me privately? You're telling me of my doom! Caliban, take me now! And so he's insisting, look, please, we must go ahead and, like, you know, we've got something to tell you. It is good. Oh, of course, take me away! And so we go to a small area of the constabulary, and so the Red Crest in question says, I don't know if you know this, sir, but you have a rune upon you. A very special rune. Do you know which one? And Cornelius lifts his arm and allows the officer to point where it was. I won't reach into my pockets. You can. I know how this works. I do apologize. I am trying to find a voice for Cornelius. I just don't know which one to do. So what we found is a pure concentration of angel stone. Just at face value, it'd be worth 10,000 gold pieces. Yeah. I bet that's going to bring you a great reputation at the precinct. I assure you that I'm not until we go back and forth about that. And eventually, the commander is brought out. Cornelius, I'm gonna have to skip right past this because Cornelius cites sexual harassment, but a surveillance rune in the corner, a camera, doesn't pick anything of the sort up. And he even attempts a lawsuit, but the commander just looks at him stone dead and says, "We can take you on if need be. Like, we can take a fine of 10,000 gold pieces now for wasting constabulary time, or we can let you go." And I'm just pulling my cap over my face slightly, just cringing. I'm like, God, just kill me now. And what a place for Gon to kill me as well, because we will learn soon enough that his presence is felt here. Or at least the people here know of Gon. And like, I have to apologise profusely and like try and deflect the subject by saying congratulations on your vigilance. Now, I will say that I wish I thought of this sooner, but I was really wanting to say, like, well done, Cornelius Bonaparte, for your excellent performance there. Agent Bonaparte here is testing the runes here, and you've done very well in finding it. And as well, we're also testing for corruption, and you've done nothing of the sort to pervert justice. Unfortunately, I'm not quick-witted enough, so I didn't come up with anything of the sort. So yeah, what was I going to do that with? There was another time when I wanted to do something like that as well, where Agent Bonaparte is just toying with you. Sometimes his performances get a bit overzealous. But unfortunately, I again wasn't quick-witted enough to think of that. I was just cringing and thinking, God almighty, this is going to ruin my fucking career. Like, just retire my character now, please. I need to play someone else. We take a break.
What did you do that for? I am afraid all promises of medals are history.
Entering now the lower spire, we see a number of aqueducts supplying several businesses with fresh water immediately. This area has smithing workshops. There's a manufactorum before us. The sound reverberating throughout the area. We make our way up the steps of the Ancient, another guard checkpoint, and we continue on as the Red Crest have heard from the Thunder Keep. If you don't want to go there, just let them through. And so, onwards we go, unmolested. In the upper spires, again, there's much more water and even more wells, with formal embassies in this part of the town. There's also a lot of academic institutions which rival those in Drummuth. For the most part, it's well kept and it's dwarves working here for the most part. We make our way to the final stairway of the Ancients, and here it's a lot more fortified. Tat looks around for workshops that may be of interest to him, but with a sixth perception, there's none in particular that take his fancy, and even then, with all the smoke and grime, and being the first time he's been here, he might not really be able to spot that much in particular at a first glance. I look around for temples and shrines, and there is one Cathedral of Gond, which I believe is the gigantic green building towards the right. Yes, so that's good. At the final fortification, the checkpoint, here are not just red crests or guards, these are troopers. We are asked to hand over our weapons and put them into the safe. One of the abjuration wizards lists the contents of the bag of holding, like Rain Man, and is told to hand it over. So yeah, that's probably it. And so Rakanar is apologetic of this, and he doesn't like letting go of his bag of holding, but he understands it's necessary, and gives it on over. We continue on our way to the Hall of the Ancients, a large, almost fortress-esque building. There's a council session at the moment, which we can view should we choose, but once the session is completed, we can seek to entreat and lobby. As we move further, we see the further fortifications, cannons tracking the walls, with troopers moving around to patrol the walls. We enter now the Hall of the Elders, and find a cavernous place, stone cut symmetrically, furnishings carefully crafted surrounding a dipped area where the council session is taking place. A number of diplomats move forward to entreat the council, dressed in clan markings and resplendent armour. Hush comes forward to the entire chamber. One puts forward motion. I put forward the secret numeral of Mectron! The Prime Councillor Beck asks for news of Mectron. By Mectron's golden wings! The dwarves raise their jazz hands. A further talk is of the tunnels. By Mectron! Which I think is a reference to Mitchell and Webb's Vectron sketch. The idea being that, like, they don't know, these, all of a sudden, like, people are just started worshipping or hailing this Vectron character, and they don't really know, and eventually they just say, should we just pack it in? And like, alright then. But I don't want to ask that here, because if I do, I might end up offending the dwarves. like, it's a long run from the Hall of the Ancients to the front fucking door. Can I outrun a cannonball with 25 movement speed? I don't think so. So hail Mectron's mighty eyebrows. We'll continue. We continue on from the viewing gallery to a set of stairs to a large ornate hall which has different types of marble in the front, almost forming a checkered pattern. There's large stone columns which look like ancient dwarven ancestors holding up the roof. Lots of the foundations look like anvils. There's a number of boxes in the wall which have runes upon them, one of which has the Reclamation's sigil on it, not to be confused with the Requisition Guild, as I once called it, and that's since been a running joke in this session. A dwarf leads us deeper into the facilities here, with dwarvish councillors filtering out. Through the third door, we find lots of office space with marble and a red carpet which is unsullied by dirty footprints. Even Takafria's heavy armour is muffled by the sound. We sit and wait and see greybeards emerge from the darkness. One is of Omar's patterned complexion, with permanent smithy tan, as Takavria would know it from Braca, and one is more pale. We ask about the temples, and the temples in the mountains, and there's lots of temples in the mountains. But they look us at deadpan when we say a temple of air. Who will dedicate a temple to air? They grab the book! The book! You at once go into the book! And search for Primordian temples. By Mectron's golden eyepiece! By Mectron's golden paperclip! As you know, the Empire fell into anarchy and decay, and much of our knowledge was lost in the remaking of the kingdom! And so we talk about the lost tunnels, and sometimes people even come back from their expeditions. Sometimes adventurers are needed to look into them. We look into them, and apparently there's so far no... And that's where my notes end there, for some reason. And apparently there's no dwarven tunnels going to Watchkeep Landbridge. Disappointing. But, hey-oh, not all rumours can be correct, right? I mean, what would be the fun in that? I do like in the Elder Scrolls Oblivion, there are rumours that are just complete bullshit. You know, it's like, hey, there's some really good stuff here. Like, actually, no. This is crap. This is horseshit. So yeah, hey, if the Watchkeep Landbridge rumours are correct, great. I like that. Sometimes an apple is just an apple and not a lich, a demi-lich with a skull carved into it. It's fate. I don't know. What am I on about? Anyway, the dwarves inspect the purest vein of Cornelius Angelstone and ask where you get it. And so they talk, and eventually one of the dwarven councillors says, "May Mechrons and Melil's symphonies combine and grow!" Or rather, no, that's Cornelius. But it's the same voice, really. As Cornelius tries to get them into a musical fervour, but they can't as they're too busy praising Metron and quickly turn into their lunch. So we agree to go on an expedition in the mines, and I must admit, I'm not entirely sure what the reward of this was, but hey-oh, it's a quest and we might get some more XP, so from a story point of view, not that great. On the other hand, it's good for me as a commissar and an imperial servant. However, for everyone else, it doesn't really bring us any closer to the Temples of Air. Bugger. So we leave and we decide to get some rest before embarking. As we do, Takavria begins again to try and feel for the hammer's mood, and the hammer of Vulca sends electric coursing through his body, but it is primed for something. Perhaps the forge, perhaps not. He says he'll search out for the best smith nearby, and a blacksmith catches his eye. The Silvered Crucible, not to be confused with the Sheffield Crucible, outside of the Hall of the Elders in the upper spire. He finds a bastion in and of itself with meticulously chiselled marble and stone, vestigially clean, I love that word, and part of him is reminded of shiny metal, as the tools are stored on specific racks, with stone cut for every tool, a place for every tool, and every tool in its place, when not in use. In the back, dwarves toil to create various pieces of equipment, a lot of which are precise. They appear to be airship parts or advanced components for machinery elsewhere, according to my perceptions. Others restock bins of metal, and others oversee the work. There's a large metal desk inlaid with silver, circular icon in the centre, with a little symbol of an emblem of a hammer beating a flaming anvil. I should have asked to do a religion check, because that, to me, sounds like the symbol of Mordin. But I wouldn't know that, would I? None of us here are dwarves, but we have two priestly characters. They might know if they ask. So, Takavria rolls on up and says, "Good day, sir. My name is Tak, and who are you?" Hello, Tak. Pleasure to meet you. My name is Bronze Ironstar. How can I help you? I've heard tell of the great craftsmanship of the hardy dwarves of Thunder Helm. I am a blacksmith of Bracker, of all places, and I'm interested to see your wares. A long way from home. What brings you here? But aye, we are the best blacksmiths here. Surely you have your own blacksmiths, yes? We have our own smiths, it is true, but no one can pound metal like a dwarf can. Aye, so what are you interested in? Mostly designs and work rather than purchasing. Swords, armour, that sort of thing. And by any chance, are you familiar with one Tordred Orkfro? Let's see now. Aye, the name rings a bell. That was a young prodigy dwarf able to master smithing and carving combination by the young age of 75. If that's the same one I'm thinking of. I think he went on to make his fortune in Freygate. I think that was the one. Quite true. It is the same one. Good. Well, I hope he's keeping well. Tak says, aye, he has a shop and business in his booming. He has a shop and business is indeed booming. It looks like we're got a bit of competition here, lads. So, here for a bit of corporate espionage, you laddie? The dwarf winks and chuckles. No, just here to compare notes. They talk mastercrafted gear that's not magical, but won't wear a body down, but their secret is to inlay runes in the weapons. A lot of the items are made with great care. He's handed a great axe. Feel the balance of that. And let's just say when you fumble and are distracted, this weapon won't let you down. He pulls out of the weapons. We offer a service here. to take armor and inscribe it and turn it into one of our masterpieces. We understand some become attached to their armor. Could you do that to a shield? And here's me thinking, oh, is my shield not good enough for your attack? As he's saying, no, well, I'm looking to enhance it, Commissar. Never replacing your fine craftsmanship. And as far as I'm aware, actually, that can be done. Like, I can't put an enchantment on a magical shield, but they can put more magics on the shield that I've made magical. Don't know how it works, but there you go. Natural language strikes again. Thanks, Wizard of the Coast, and you fucking OGL 1.1! Sorry, that was meant to say OGL 1.1. Bronze presents an obsidian shield drawing the light from it, as it allows the user to cast darkness, and should you charge it with enough sunlight, you can cast the disintegrate spell. Unfortunately, this costs the low price of 30,000 gold pieces. H.Y.D.R.A tries to glean its secrets of craft. 17 investigation, as Iron Star points out the armor of Contra. Normally only given to the most valued agents of the crown, that should a magical effect or spell attempt to take hold, the spells will be negated and put the caster at a disadvantage. Other armors include increasing movement speed by 10 feet, which would cost 2,000 gold pieces, and another which is somewhat similar to the other steam-powered armor, Sans Backpack, the Armor of Rocks. Prevents being knocked over, and you can cast Stone Skin once per day at dawn, costing only 18,000 gold pieces. Just don't have that lying around, you know. Maybe in my other sofa, in my other castle. You know what? I will actually say that, like, you know, like, magic item costs are fine. Like, the whole point of the game is to go adventuring. Like, I'd love to just play Castle Simulator, or, like, open a shop and play house, but that's not really what D&D, especially 5th edition's about. Older editions in D&D, you get to 10th level, you get a fucking castle. In this, you get a feat, and you get a spell slot. Great. But then again, it is a game about adventuring. You know, like, you can't really find the Temple of Air sat in your cottage, can you? So, yeah. So, H.Y.D.R.A asks about katanas, and they're more of a protectorate weapon. But that conversation has now established them as canon. Very clever. I like that. A blade is pulled out and sheds a great light, and it deals radiant damage as if from the forge itself. And if one were to strike down an undead heathen, it would deal extra damage. Bright blade is swung around, and it feels like sunlight upon H.Y.D.R.A's face. It costs 5,000 pieces. Honestly, that sounds really good. I think that's a good price for that weapon. I mean, they're all seemingly good prices. H.Y.D.R.A appreciates him showing his wares and craftsmanship, which in bronze the greatest of luck in his endeavours. He will consider coming back here when his own armour's made. Cornelius tries to play with a spear, but a dwarf pulls away. Okay, easy. Sorry, but one of them was calling to me like Cornelius. And he hands it back. No, sorry, I don't think we deal in spirit-bound weapons. But I can sell it to you if you like. And so Cornelius has granted the spear and a pamphlet for 1 gold piece, and he uses it as like a walking stick. So like my characters, if ever they have a quarterstaff, it's like they're usually actually like older characters who, like Gandalf, would like use it to like support themselves as they walk. They are really useful. I once wrote an article on quarterstaves, like in like RPGs, and like why they're really good. Like their damage isn't great, but they do have a fair few uses, especially if it's like a sling staff. But I think that's now been established in Dragonlance as a separate weapon. So yeah. Anyway. So, he was expecting it to be like a halberd, but that would be a bit more expensive and might even be out of Cornelius' strength range. So, the spear works, and hey, it can be used as a thrown weapon. Range of 20 feet, not bad. Good melee weapon, keeps enemies at a distance, so it has reach. So, yeah. So, and as well, like, because our weapons were confiscated before, because of Ragnar, and, Ragnar asks for a non-magical greatsword, which he purchases. We are allowed to walk around town with these weapons because we bought them from here. So he buys a greatsword for 50 gold pieces, and he wonders if bronze can do something like Near's armor. Something metallic, but maintains mobility. And Bronze says, hey, could be an interesting project. Strips of metal, I'm thinking, across the wings. Not exactly impeding the wings either, but could have armor. Won't be able to fly quite as far without getting tired, but for 30,000 gold pieces, I think I can do that. So, we may think about it. Also as well, that if we buy weapons from here, we can have runes added to them later. So I think it's about 300 gold pieces. So we consider it. Ragnar buys the greatsword and is satisfied. In the end, we go to a place called Keyleth Plaza. Wonder what that's a reference to. And we find Arya's jewellery. I make my way to that particular store, and I find a decently constructed building. And there's rings made of brass inlaid with a variety of gemstones. And behind the desk is a rather lean, brown-skinned gnome who looks up to me. And that's where my notes ended, because it was me talking at that point. Very quickly, just wanted to buy some spell components. A pearl for 100 gold pieces, and some diamond dust. Rather, diamonds. And I bought those. So the pearl is going to go into my psionic screwdriver for the identify spell. Which should hopefully require fewer arcana checks. Bit of a better chance of success, but if I cast it as a ritual, it is 10 minutes. If I don't, it's like instant cast, I think, so there we go, like 1 minute, so that's good. But also sort of the diamonds as well I need for the Revivify spell. Once again, I have to disclose, I put this in the Discord chat, but Revivify does not require a willing soul to return to the body. So, if anyone wants a Do Not Resuscitate notice to join their god, now's the time to kind of tell me. But the way I'm going to reflavor that is basically, it's going to be jumper cables. Like that, just kickstart people's heart. Quite literally like the Motley Crue song. So, yeah, that was the session. We at the end, where I think we're just going to rest up in an inn. I think Tekoria's perhaps going to go to a forge and see what the Hammer of Vulca wants to do in his trance. I think I'm going to see a Temple of Gond. And there, I think I'm going to have a bit of a chat with Gond. And say that, listen here, and listen, because I'm only going to say this once, Gond. I go into these tunnels, and I'm going to either face a new nightmare and come out alive, because I don't want to hear the screams of the prisoners anymore, or I might not come out at all. But if neither of those things happen, I might be staying with you a bit longer. And we'll see. We'll see if she wants to continue her the Commissar wants to continue her expedition to the Temple of Air, wherever it may be. Maybe it's in the tunnels. Who knows? Or perhaps someone else might join the adventure. I don't know. It was just a little idea, because like she has to think a lot about like what she's gonna do. Like how, like what kind of commissar she's going to be, and what she can really do for the kingdom. So I think I will stick to the character, because I do enjoy playing them, especially now that I'm really getting into the roleplay. Like since that whole thing with Wyatt, I've really been into my roleplay, and I do get a lot of encouragement from the players. Like recently, I was encouraged by a tax player, like saying, you know, like it was just a nice little thing by saying, yeah, we have to, like, we should play on Sundays because we need John. And I was like, I like that. Thank you ever so much. That's greatly appreciated. Of course, keep you know, just flooding me with compliments. But no, I do enjoy the character, and I do enjoy role playing, and I enjoy that other people enjoy me role playing as well. So yeah, I think I'm going to stick with the character. I think she'll have a chat with Gond, but that might be the start of looking at levels in Cleric maybe in the future. But we are level 9. I've gone for a level 9 in Art. I've gone for another level in Artificer. So we're going to carry on. And I think I get Arcane Jolt at this level, so that'll be handy. Nanomachine Sun when healing people, and Nanomachine Sun when hitting people with the Steel Defender. We will see. But yeah, loving the campaign. Absolutely loving it. Can't wait to play again. But as a little extra note, our group is potentially looking at playing another role-playing game called Lancer, which is not an OGL-based one or SRD-based one. Lancer is a mech combat game, and it's got really good character customization. It's really, really good. If you want it, you can have it, as long as it's human and it's a mech. Can't wait to play it. So yeah. Oh, I realised I left it a bit late, but I may, unlikely, but I may actually cancel my D&D Beyond subscription out of protest. So that unfortunately does mean disabling content sharing. But I will tell my group that before, so they don't need to hear it from the session recap video first, as such. Like, they're not like, this is an announcement, I'm going to cancel it, and then they've got to figure out, whoa, why does my character sheet not work anymore? No, nothing like that. But it is an idea. As Lancer, as is just, perhaps playing a different character. But no, I think I'm going to stick with this character. Yeah, and I think they just need I think they need a word with Gond and need to know where her artisanal skill and where her where divine intervention comes in, and where her role as an artificer comes in, and where her role as a soldier comes in as well. Trying to find that balance, as H.Y.D.R.A had done. Perhaps my own character can go, in fact, perhaps even be like their own little sort of personal quest. What do they have to do to find balance? So, yeah. So, that's it for me. I do apologise for a rather long-winded video today. I know, like, in terms of looking at the times, it's not that much longer, but the delivery of the content, and as well, it was a much more relaxed session, and I think I needed that after the one that we had before. It was really good, but sessions 23 and 24. But I needed like this one. But like, and on the other hand, it's like I just had so many notes to take because I love Thunder Helm. It's my favorite location in the game, and like from a world building point of view, I've got so many questions I want to ask. Like I keep asking about G.E.E.S.E mold because like I love Kellenvor and like the stuff going on there, but oh my god, I love Thunder Helm, and I want to know more about it. I want to know what every single Dwarven expedition has been. Every single house. I want to know every single person here. I want to know every single thing they forge. I want to know every single rock and stone that they've unearthed and picked up. So, I am going to get off. Thank you ever so much for watching. Take care. If the OGL 1.1 goes ahead, good luck. So, yeah. See you later. Ta for now.
What I am about to do has not been approved by the Union. Prepare yourself for cyber session.